Hi, my name is Dawn, and I am going to show you how to make a hat on the green Nifty Knitted loom with 36 pegs, and I'm going to show you how to make the brim in a rib stitch to make it fit a little tighter to your head and to not use the traditional brim that you would find in the Nifty Knitter instruction booklet. This 36 peg loom is great for this type of stitch because it has an even number of pegs and the pegs are divisible by 4. And to do the the rib stitch, you will be knitting 2 pegs, purling 2 pegs, knitting 2 pegs, purling 2 pegs all the way around the loom. I usually do this for about 1.5 to 2 inches. It's kind of your preference, however tall you would like your brim to be. So I have my Nifty Knitter, I have my pulling tool or my pick, and then I'm using a bulky yarn just because on this knitter, having such gaps between the pegs, I like to use a thicker yarn. You can also use a thinner yarn if you're making a summer type hat, or you could hold 2 to 3 strands together, which I have also done with these looms. So what I'm first going to do is I'm going to make myself a slip knot here, and you can make your slip knot however you are typically used to making it. And I'm going to secure that slip knot to my first peg. I'm then going to do my setup row, and I work backwards on my knitter. Typically you would go from right to left. I work from left to right. However you knit, whichever direction will work just fine. So what I'm going to do, you can use any type of cast on method you would like, but being this is just for a video, I'll go ahead here and do the quick E-wrap cast on. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and secure to my anchor peg, and I'm going to push down my cast on row. This can be done on any of the looms, even if you have the red loom that is a 31 peg loom. Yes, it has an odd number of pegs, and yes, it is not divisible by 4. But when you get to the end, if you end up with the last stitch being just 1, so like 1 knit or 1 purl versus 2 knits or 2 purls, that's really not a big deal. You're probably the only one who's going to actually notice that. I'm going to move my yarn here. Okay, so to start this, you could use the regular knit stitch versus the E-wrap stitch, but I'm going to use the E-wrap stitch here just to make it a little simpler. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap my first 2 pegs. These are going to be my knit stitch, or in this case my E-wrap stitch. And I'm going to go ahead and knit those bottom loops over the peg. Now, if you're not familiar with the purl stitch, it's better to kind of start these loops up a little bit. What you do is take your knitting working yarn, and you're going to hold it below the loops that are currently on the peg. Kind of give you a little close-up of this. These are below. So what I'm going to do the purl stitch is I'm going to take my tool and insert it from top to bottom. I'm going to twist my tool around the yarn and pull up this loop. And what you do then is take this loop in your left or right hand, it doesn't really matter, whatever way you're comfortable with. Take your knitting tool, pull that old loop off the peg, and you're going to replace it with the new purl stitch that you've just created, and you are going to give it a little bit of a tug. Then you're on your second purl stitch, so what you're going to do is the same thing. Insert the pick from the top to the bottom, go around your working yarn, and pull up and get this new loop. And these grooves and these pegs on the Nifty Knitters are great for this. It kind of gives you a place to gouge your tool into. Again, lift the existing loop over and place the new loop on the peg. Now you're ready to do your 2 knit stitches again. In my case, as I said previously, this will be an E-wrap stitch. So I'm going to E-wrap. I'm going to knit these over the top. I'm going to pull these loops up a little bit better here. So I can bring my working yarn below. My yarn's kind of splitting here. I'm going to insert the pick from the top of the loop. Kind of try to get a little bit closer here. Down, around the working yarn, pull up my new loop, grab it, take the existing loop off the peg, put the new loop on, give a tug. Don't make it too incredibly tight. You don't want it to be too tight for your second time around here. So I'm going to do my second, getting out of camera range here. This is my first video, so hopefully next time I can be a little more prepared and getting the tripod here set up properly so you can see a little bit better. Again, I created that new loop. I'm going to pull off and replace it with the new peg, or the new loop, I'm sorry, on the peg. So now I've completed 2 knits, 2 purls, 2 knits, 2 purls, 2 knits, 2 more purls. I'm going to go ahead and shut off this video, and I'm going to continue around and actually work on my second one, and I will have a part 2 to this. Thanks. Hope you enjoyed.